She stood in the pouring rain, suitcase in hand, pounding on a door that no longer opened for her. Her mascara ran like ink on wet paper, her voice cracking as no one answered. She had no idea I was 3,000 miles away, watching everything fall apart. But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. My name is Richard Whitaker. I'm 54 years old. And up until a few months ago, I believed I had a marriage built on endurance. Not fire, not fantasy, endurance. The kind that gets you through lean years and loud fights. The kind that still leaves coffee in the pot for your partner, even when you're too angry to speak. I thought that meant something. I thought we meant something. I met Emily on a cold afternoon in the college library. She was wearing an oversized sweater, hair tucked behind one ear, poring over a Freud text like it held the keys to some private universe. I was covered in drywall dust from my shift, just dropping off an application to the night classes office. We couldn't have been more different. But when she looked up and smiled, something clicked. Maybe it was youth. Maybe it was need. Either way, we started writing the first pages of our story that day. I supported us while she pursued her master's in psychology. I took whatever jobs I could get. Roofing, framing, drywall, hauling concrete in the dead of winter. I kept our car running with duct tape and borrowed tools. I went years without buying a new jacket. Not because she asked me to, because I wanted her to succeed. Because I believed in her the way a man believes in the person he builds his life around. Over time, that belief hardened into habit. I didn't question her late nights. I didn't press when she started keeping her phone face down or locking it all together. I convinced myself that after so many years, maybe love just looked quieter, less obvious. I mistook distance for routine, disinterest for fatigue. I didn't want to see it, not until it slapped me in the face. That night, I came home 3 hours early. Rain-soaked boots on the welcome mat, a grocery bag in hand, steaks, red wine, fresh rosemary. I was going to surprise her, remind her that we still had something worth tasting, even if it had gone stale. But as I set the bag down, I saw her laptop glowing on the couch. No password screen, no hesitation. Just the truth, in bold black letters. Can't wait to be free. Divorce papers next week. He still doesn't suspect a thing. 3E. Jason, her coworker, mid-30s, marketing manager, the kind of man who says buddy to guys like me. I stared at the screen for a full minute, not moving, not breathing. The weight of 27 years didn't collapse. It evaporated, quietly, like breath on a mirror. She hadn't just found someone else. She'd already written me out of the script. I was a footnote in my own life. I didn't shout. I didn't break anything. I closed the laptop, picked up the groceries, and walked out to the garage, sat in the truck, stared at the rain on the windshield. Something in me turned off. Or maybe it turned on. I wasn't sure yet. But I knew this. I wasn't going to give her the drama she expected. No confrontation, no begging, no reaction at all. Let her believe I still didn't suspect a thing. I didn't say a word. Not that night. Not the next morning. Emily poured herself coffee in the kitchen, humming softly to some morning podcast. She asked me if I'd be home for dinner. I nodded. I think I even smiled. I was polite, present, perfectly still, like prey in tall grass. But inside, I was bleeding out. She went about her day as if we were still a team, as if the last 27 years hadn't just been tossed aside like a burnt-out appliance. She joked about traffic, mentioned something about a friend's baby shower, kissed me on the cheek on her way out the door. And I stood there in the hallway, my skin still warm from her lips, wondering how a person could lie so completely with their eyes open. That week, I lived like a ghost in my own home, not out of fear, but out of focus, Every smile she faked, every text she typed with her screen tilted away, every moment her voice dropped behind the bathroom door, catalogued. I stopped living in time. I became a recorder, a machine. Not because I wanted revenge, not yet, but because I needed something solid to hold on to. I wasn't mourning a woman. I was mourning a truth. The truth that I had believed down to my marrow, that love given freely would always anchor itself in loyalty, that sacrifice meant something, that showing up day after day, even in silence, even in fatigue, mattered. But betrayal doesn't come with warning signs. It comes wearing your favorite sweater. It serves you dinner. It laughs at your jokes. And then, one day, you realize you've been talking to a mirror for months, and she stopped seeing you long ago. I didn't touch my food. Nights passed without sleep. I would sit at the dining table long after the lights were out, staring at the grain in the wood, thinking about how many dinners we'd eaten there, how many quiet moments I thought were peace but were really just the absence of truth. I watched her, not with suspicion, that had already settled. I watched her like a scientist studying a species in decline. There was something tragic about her confidence, her false security. She thought she was playing a quiet game of escape. She didn't know the rules had already changed. She didn't know I'd seen the finish line and decided I wouldn't meet her there, not on her terms, and not as the man she thought she could erase. I didn't slam the door. I didn't take the dog. I didn't pack a bag or even touch my toothbrush. I left everything exactly as she expected to find it. That was the point. Let her come home to the same shoes by the front door, the jacket on the hook, the keys still in the bowl. Let her spend the first few hours wondering if I was in the garage, in the shower, out for milk. I was gone without a trace, and she didn't know why. Disappearance, when done right, is not an escape. It's a statement. It says, "You don't get to witness my suffering." I walked out the night before she planned to file for divorce. I know this because she had left the paperwork open on the printer tray the previous day, with her new signature carefully practiced at the bottom. Emily Ann Whitaker, soon to be just Emily Ann, like she'd never borrowed my name, like she hadn't worn it for nearly 3 decades. But she never owned the foundation she stood on. That house? My father's house, deeded to me the year before we got married. I never added her name, not out of foresight, just laziness at the time. Funny how what seems unimportant in youth becomes your fortress in war. And the accounts? I'd spent the past 2 weeks moving in silence, quietly liquidating half of everything into an irrevocable trust. It was legal, airtight. She was too busy planning her new life with a man who probably couldn't fix a leaky faucet, let alone see a war coming. There's a kind of power in leaving without sound. No argument, no confrontation, just a man-shaped void in a life she thought she controlled. She expected rage, a fight, drama. That's how these things go, right? She cheats. I explode. She plays the victim. No. I robbed her of that script. I refused to play the character she'd written for me. She didn't get my anger. She got my absence. And as far as she knew, I could have been anywhere. Florida, Oregon, 6 feet under. But the truth was simpler. I didn't run. I positioned. Quietly, lawfully, with precision. Every step accounted for, every thread severed clean. She had no idea where I was. Worse, she had no idea what I'd already taken with me. The first domino fell with a click. Emily slid her key into the front door as she always had, expecting the same welcome she took for granted for years. But the deadbolt didn't budge. She jiggled the handle, tried again, then again, probably thinking the lock had jammed. Only after the third attempt, when the porch light flickered on automatically and revealed the freshly installed keypad, Did the reality begin to settle like dust on her certainty? Her key didn't work because it wasn't her door anymore. That house, the one she walked through with catalog dreams and Pinterest boards, the one where she staged our life to look perfect on the outside while she was hollowing it out behind my back, never belonged to her. It was mine. It had always been mine. She just occupied it. The next blow came 2 days later. A sheriff's deputy left the envelope taped to the glass panel by the porch. Bright yellow sticker. Court-ordered notice. 14 days to vacate the premises. It wasn't a dramatic eviction, just a simple, formal reminder from the state that she was a guest overstaying her welcome in a home she never owned, never paid for, and no longer belonged in. She didn't call me immediately. Pride, probably. She still thought this was a misunderstanding she could smooth over with charm or confusion. But it wasn't confusion. It was precision. The third strike came from a direction she never expected. Her new plaything, Jason. One morning he walked into his office and was escorted out by security before he even reached his desk. His manager didn't shake his hand, didn't look him in the eye, just handed him a manila envelope and turned away. Inside were printed screenshots, time-stamped, explicit. Every message he thought was clever or private, every photo sent from a work device, archived and archived well. I'd sent it anonymously, of course, to HR, to the ethics committee, and to his fiancée, a woman named Danielle, who had thanked me 2 days later from a burner email. I had no idea. Thank you for showing me before I married a fraud. I don't know what Emily said when Jason told her he was fired. Maybe she blamed him. Maybe she screamed. Or maybe, just maybe, she started to understand she was no longer in control of anything. That week, she called me 17 times. Morning, night, voicemails pleading, texts ranging from soft apologies to venom-laced accusations. I didn't answer once. Silence was no longer passive. It was punishment. 2 weeks after I vanished, she stood in the rain in front of a house that no longer remembered her name. The image came to me secondhand, from a neighbor, Marlene, who texted one of my old coworkers. She described it plainly. She's standing there, soaked through, just frozen, like she doesn't know where to go. A woman once so composed, so polished, now reduced to a shivering silhouette dragging a red suitcase through puddles. No umbrella. No keys. No more illusions. She wasn't crying for me. She was crying for the life she thought would be waiting on the other side of her betrayal. For the comfort she expected to keep while I was erased. But the story she told, the one about the noble woman stuck in a loveless marriage, the woman who just wanted to feel alive again, had finally met its expiration date. And this time, nobody was buying it. Her parents had found out. Not through me. Through whispers, screenshots, awkward calls from mutual friends. Her father, a man who once toasted our anniversary with teary eyes, now refused to answer her texts. Her mother told her not to come around until she figured herself out. That was code. Parents of a certain generation don't use words like shame or disgrace anymore, but they still mean them. Her church, gone. The Bible study group that used to pray for her troubled husband had seen the receipts, emails, timelines, all shared discreetly by people she once leaned on. Turns out, when you burn trust, even the pews grow cold, and her friends, the curated circle who used to sip wine and nod along when she painted herself as a martyr? Silent. Group chats dried up, dinners canceled. One by one they ghosted her, not out of malice, but self-preservation. No one wants to be seen siding with the liar once the mask cracks. Jason had long since vanished, fired, exposed. His fiancée left him, his landlord kicked him out. And by the time Emily's calls started flooding in, his number had changed. She wasn't just alone. She was discarded. Not with rage, but with indifference. the worst kind of exile. And me? I was 3,000 miles away, living in my late uncle's cabin near the Oregon border. No Wi-Fi, no cell reception, just the sound of wind in the trees and the rhythmic crackle of wood in the fireplace. I didn't need to see her ruin. The silence said enough. It arrived on the morning of what would have been our 28th anniversary. An unassuming white envelope, no return address, hand-delivered by courier. The kind of envelope that doesn't announce itself, doesn't demand attention, but waits with quiet certainty to be opened. She was staying at a short-term rental by then. Small, impersonal, and dimly lit. The kind of place you find on the third page of a booking site when you no longer have a home. No one brought her flowers that day. No one posted a nostalgic happy anniversary on social media. She was alone when she slid open the seal, probably expecting legal paperwork, maybe even a desperate plea for closure. What she found instead was the cold hand of truth, delivered with no venom, no sarcasm, no rage. Just facts. The first page was a copy of the property deed, my father's signature still visible on the original transfer, dated years before she ever took my last name. A legal reminder that the home she once redecorated in seasonal pastels had never, for a single second, belonged to her. The second page was a meticulous timeline. Her digital trail, captured and preserved, emails to Jason, texts sent from hotel lobbies, calendar entries masked as therapy sessions. Nothing embellished, nothing taken out of context. Just the facts as they unfolded, recorded in her own words, time-stamped with the precision of someone who no longer flinched at betrayal. And then the third page. Just a number. The formal acknowledgement from the bank of a fully established irrevocable trust, locked tight and legally sealed. Her name absent, uninvited, irrelevant. She could have burned it, torn it up, screamed. But the real blow wasn't any single page. It was what came after. 2 lines, typed in black ink, centered, plain font. You taught me what love isn't. Thank you for setting me free. No signature, no name, just the echo of finality. There's a violence in silence that no shouted insult can match. She expected rage, maybe even humiliation, but what she received was the full weight of irrelevance. Not hate, not longing, just release. She had written the ending to our marriage with secrecy and smugness, but I'd written the epilogue, one she could never rewrite, and for the first time since I walked away, she finally understood. I hadn't vanished. I had erased her. I didn't drag her to court. I didn't scream at her in the street or send her flaming messages at 2 a.m. I didn't threaten, belittle, or try to make her see what she'd done, because that would have given her something she didn't deserve, my attention. People mistake silence for weakness. They think if you don't fight back loud enough, you've lost. But the truth is, silence, when used with intention, isn't surrender. It's domination. Every calculated move I made, every form filed, every transfer signed, every key changed, was done without announcement. No warning shots, no melodrama, just a quiet disassembly of the world she thought she controlled. She imagined I'd fall apart, that I'd chase her, beg for answers, crumble in front of friends. That's what happens to the ones who lose. But I didn't lose. I left. Not as a man defeated, but as a man done offering explanations. I never set out to destroy her. That would have required hatred, and I'd long since run out of emotions that gave her power. What I wanted, what I achieved, was much colder. I wanted her to feel the hollowness, that moment when you reach for something you assumed was still yours, comfort, reputation, stability, and realize it's vanished. And no one took it from you. You lost it through arrogance, through betrayal, through the simple belief that consequences were for other people. My silence wasn't absence. It was presence. It lingered around her like fog. At every failed job interview, every awkward conversation with an old friend who stopped returning her calls, every night she lay awake wondering what I'd tell the world next, and realizing I already told it everything I needed to. And through it all, I never responded. Not to the emails with subject lines like, "Please read," or "Can we talk?" Not to the ones that flipped tone midway from apology to accusation. She sent them from new addresses sometimes, like changing the name would change the outcome. But the outcome was sealed long ago. There's power in letting someone speak into silence, letting them scream into a void, hoping to stir an echo. She still tries sometimes, like a gambler chasing a loss she can't accept. But I don't play anymore. She had her chance at truth. Now she has only the silence. It's been 3 years since I disappeared from the life I once called mine. I don't mark the days anymore, not like I used to. Time has softened here. It moves like fog through the evergreens, slow and deliberate, untouched by schedules or calendars. My mornings begin with silence and end the same way. No phone buzzing, no emails pinging, no voices demanding anything from me. Just breath, wind, and stillness. I live in a small cabin near the ridge, one my uncle left me before he passed. It's nothing glamorous. The roof creaks when it rains, the floorboards groan like old men in winter, and the fireplace needs constant tending. But it breathes. It holds space for the kind of life most people forget to build. One with purpose that doesn't need applause. Every morning I walk the woods before the sun climbs over the hills. The forest doesn't lie. It doesn't flatter. It doesn't betray. Out here, everything is what it is. The wind doesn't pretend to be anything else. The deer don't wear masks, and I don't either. Not anymore. I volunteer now, twice a week, at a veterans cabin rehab program just down the trail. It's quiet work, fixing sinks, chopping firewood, teaching younger guys how to mend broken shingles and sometimes how to mend broken selves. Most of them don't ask what I did before. They see the way I work and know enough. Men like us don't need to speak everything aloud. There are moments when I'm cleaning out the rain gutters or sanding down splintered wood, where I feel something I hadn't in years. Not anger, not grief. Clarity. When I pass my reflection in the lake, I don't see the man who stayed too long trying to earn love that was never real. I don't see the shadow who once thought silence made him weak. I see a man who chose to walk, not away from pain, but toward something cleaner, something whole. I am not healed in some grand, cinematic sense. I still carry the scar. But scars are proof that something tried to break you and failed. I don't need revenge anymore. I don't need her to understand. I don't need anyone to rewrite the past. I just need the morning light, the cold wind on my face, and the steady rhythm of boots on soil to remind me I chose this path. And sometimes walking away isn't retreat, it's rebirth.